There are so many different approaches to how hypnotherapists deal with clients in their everyday practice. And I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. My name is Meredith McCarthy, if you haven't tuned in before. And I love to share all sorts of different information about hypnotherapy, how I practice with people to, just educate and connect to people who are interested in this field, learning more. So today I thought I'd talk about that a little bit more around how I see it, how I see the differences and how people approach things. And hope you enjoy this one. Right. First of all, hypnotherapy is not just done one way. There are many different styles that people go about engaging in how they conduct their session with a client, including what kind of induction, the way that people go into hypnosis, how they deepen that person into a deeper state of trance or hypnosis. Everyone is different. And there are a lot of different people in the history of hypnosis that have done their own thing. And I don't think it's a quick answer to say this is the best way, because you've got to find as a practitioner a way that feels right for you and your client sitting in front of you. And you've got to be, as a therapist, able to chop and change to help that client feel comfortable enough with you to trust in the process. And if a client's expectation is more formal hypnosis, meaning they want to be under trance and you're commanding it, then they're clicking the fingers on in this moment, as I count from 1 to 3, you go deeper and deeper now. 1, 2, 3, deep, all the way down, So that clicking of the finger is a very dominant and very punctual way that some hypnotherapists work. Others, they do a lot of kinesthetic stuff with the client. So they might have an arm catalepsy where they might lift the wrist and get them to just stay there in midair, and the person is there for half the session and their hand is hovering. The person does not get fatigued by this. This is one of those catalepsy kind of things that hypnosis brings, where that part of the arm is almost detached from the rest of the body. So when we're thinking about deep states of trance, you don't need to be in the deeper state for change to occur emotionally in that person's life to help them through beliefs and actions, motivation. However, for pain management and maybe a dental procedure or some other ongoing pain that a person may be experiencing, hypnosis can definitely be used to train that client to be able to deal with that pain more easily. So to dial it down. Now, imagination is a big part. So whatever it is that a hypnotherapist is doing with their client, imagination is a big part of that, and also suggestions, certain types of suggestions that lead a client towards positive outcome is another part of our craft. There are different types of clients out there that come from different backgrounds. They've been raised in certain ways of thinking. And if the therapist cannot connect to that client, so they can't establish rapport, that's often one of the things that can erode trust within a relationship, in a therapeutic relationship. So they may not be the best client for you to be working with. However, a therapist needs to often learn also to park their own biases and to really think about the client's world rather than their idea of the world, and adapt their approach accordingly. So if someone is very religious, it's respecting those religious philosophies within that session and supporting that client with that perspective, regardless of what your view might be. Okay. There are many times, though, I've heard hypnotherapists teaching hypnosis saying you don't need to do, old-fashioned trance. There's no such thing as depth of trance and all sorts of things like that. Well, that's not true. There have been many studies that have shown that there is a difference, that people do go into somnambulism and also the Esdale scale of depth, and that's where you can work with pain, do operations and other things. And a person can be taught how to go deeper and deeper and deeper through that conditioning. So there is a hypnotic approach that can be done for most people to be able to ready them for such an operation. Maybe they're allergic to anesthetics or pain relief in some way. So using that understanding of teaching a client how to go deep, and the idea that there is a depth that can be of assistance, this implanting of that idea is all part of the suggestion toolkit, which allows the client then to have that experience. So shift mind, body follows, just waiting for clearest instructions. So I think there are some interesting people teaching some ideas based upon maybe what their observations might have been, but it's not necessarily clinically driven. It hasn't been proven what they're saying. So there are definitely studies in neuroscience and other things where we can see a change in the brain. We can see that people do go into hypnosis and there are phenomena that happen. A person can be put into a cold ice bath for a very long period of time and not have the normal hypothermic reaction, so they can regulate their temperature for way longer than when they're not hypnotized. So there's some interesting phenomena that can happen in extreme situations. So, our brain is pretty amazing like that. It does go into these amazing creative zones of thought, which create, like alchemy, the next chapter. And that's the hypnotic mind working. And we all have that ability to tap into it. Some are more creative than others, granted. However, we are all landscaping through choices, miniature choices, what comes next in our life, whether we realize that or not. So I think when we're looking at inductions, some people might use a typical staircase induction. Some people find that hard because they've got aphantasia and they can't imagine the staircase, so that's not going to work for them. So we need to be adaptable in the way of how we might take a person into that deeper hypnotic trance to do work with them and connect to the subconscious, that part of them that's running all the programs. There isn't one right or wrong way. It's really looking at using an eclectic toolbox to go, what do I need to do for this client in front of me, rather than having a stock standard for everyone, the same thing over and over again. You can find great examples of very generic inductions that hypnotherapists use that will cover a wide range of people and work very effectively. However, there's always going to be that small sector of humanity that it doesn't work on. So we've got to be really clever about how do we work with those individuals that aren't wanting to feel out of control, might fear that, or something in their guard comes up. So how do you normalize the process, what hypnosis is and what it isn't within a session? This is a really important part of a journey with the client, is to normalize what hypnosis is and what it isn't. I can talk about that a little bit more in another session, but I thought I'd just talk about the different approaches and beliefs that many hypnotherapists out there that are practicing and are teaching other hypnotherapists, how they vary, but also how similar they are as well. So there's a lot of crossovers. So you see a lot of people saying, "Oh, my method is more powerful." According to whom and what? We've got to be very careful about how we put that out. What I find is many people who are teaching, their foundations come from the same place, and they've just adapted it a little bit, tweaked it a little bit, have a different insight to something, and they're sharing that. But the foundations have not changed. There are certain givens within how we use hypnosis in a therapeutic way in a session with a client to promote positive outcomes, okay, to help people let go of the trauma response from maybe something that's happened to them in the past, or ego strength, or promote motivation, or detach from addiction cycles, things like that. So, it's a broad application. And manage pain, like I was mentioning earlier. There's a broad application for hypnotherapy, and each individual that comes in, they need to go into that journey in a way that makes sense to them. So as a therapist, is this person wound up so much that we need to do a more gentle induction? So we might need to relax their mind and body before we can even get into the real work. Whereas other people might not need that. You can go instantly into a quick induction, get straight to it, and that can be very, very effective for some people, but not for everyone. And this is really important to understand. So if you are out there curious about, hypnotherapy and inductions and deepening and suggestibility and scales of depth and all of those things, that's all part of the journey of learning this really exciting modality and how to apply it in a really effective way to get great results. The other thing that I want to normalize is you can't always help everyone, no matter how fantastic you might be as a human being, and your toolkit is vast and that. There's always going to be those people that turn up, but they don't get on board with the process. For whatever reason, the self-saboteur or the belief system is so entrenched that no matter how well you journey into that session with the client, how adaptable you are, how slow or fast you go, that client, if they're not ready to change on a deeper level, change isn't going to happen. And that happens from time to time. So it's not a cure-all. This is really important. But saying that, I've seen some amazing things over my journey of people coming out of cycles where they really are reinventing themselves and starting a brand new chapter with better belief systems intact that help them to achieve goals that they're wanting to achieve next. And that mindset does matter. And hypnosis, I feel, does get incredible results when it comes to changing a mindset or helping a person or assisting a person in changing their mindset. What I want to iterate, though, is that the hypnotherapist is not the one doing the change, the client is. And the hypnotherapist is not the one in charge of the change, the client is. And the hypnotherapist is not the one with the answers, the client has the answers. What the hypnotherapist's job is to facilitate the space to allow the shifts and changes that client wants to experience happen efficiently and easily. So even before a person books in, they are considering change. So things are already starting to happen in the neural pathways. And that's where the ingredients of new beginnings has already started to form. The what if I could do this differently? And even in a hypnotic session, inviting that to the client's attention again is very powerful. What if you could do it differently? What would that be like? Imagine that now, doing it differently in a way that is really amazing for you. I love using those ideas within the landscape of a hypnotherapy session, but a lot of hypnotherapists would never say it like that. That is my method that I've adapted off other things I've seen and evolved over my 30 plus years in practice. Another person, another hypnotherapist might have a very, very different approach to the same situation with the same client. And that's not right or wrong, it's just different. Because all of us, all hypnotherapists out there, are unique. We come with our own experience, our own way of communicating that experience, and holding space is we're going to do it in our own unique way. So some hypnotherapists will be more authoritarian and some will be more passive. Some will have an eclectic range of both. So there are times where you become more authoritarian in your selection of suggestions. So from now on you are, that kind of statement of absolute. Whereas a more passive delivery would be, from now on you might find yourself incredibly impressed by the wonderful positive changes that happen. So it's more subtle as a suggestion rather than it's going to happen. Different clients respond differently. And if you've got someone who doesn't always like to be told what to do, then using an authoritarian style hypnosis may create resistance. Then again, under hypnosis, they're more open to suggestion, even if they are that kind of character. But how we land it is everything. As a hypnotherapist, it's really important to be aware and thoughtful of how our suggestions do land in that therapeutic space. Look, I hope you've enjoyed today's talk time. If you're interested in learning to become a clinical hypnotherapist, I have a diploma course that you can check out. You can visit nzach.ac.nz and download the prospectus, and I'm happy to give you a call. And, it's an exciting career choice, and one that I know for me has been very, very fulfilling over these years, to be able to see people and what they're capable of achieving with the right support, And if you want to learn how to do that, how to support others in helping them have their best life, then, check out the website. Look, for now, though, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed before and you're interested in more of this, remember to subscribe. And if you have liked what I've covered today, it would be really helpful if you'd like it. It helps the algorithms. I know you probably hear that from all of the creators out there about that, but it really does help to push these sort of videos out into the world. I'm teeny tiny in the middle of, the world, the global sort of information that's being shared out there on YouTube. So I'm a teeny tiny channel, but any help like that really does help me connect to those that are passionate about helping others make positive change. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you've got into a good start for 2026, and I'll see you next week. Thank you now. Bye.